Stephanie, where can corporations start? You talked about what consumers can do. You also touched on what startup community companies can do. But where do large enterprises or corporations start? What's the first step that they need to take? And then how do they move forward from there?
What we've found in talking to some of the biggest and best companies in the world is that they all make these incredible commitments and put a stake in the ground that by 2025, 2030, right, we're going to be 100% sustainable. And that's great. It speaks volumes that this matters so much for all the reasons we've been talking about. But it's almost like paralyzing, right? Where do you go and what do you do on day one? How are you going to get end-to-end transparency and a perfectly digital supply chain with all the information you need from a tier 1 to a tier 14 supplier? I mean, it's overwhelming. And so I'm a big proponent of small, steady actions that really, when you add them up, are actually more massive than you think. And one of the most obvious places that so often historically got overlooked was a business's waste. They are literally sitting on a gold mine of unused inventory, from raw materials to finished goods, and opportunities to take that waste, to monetize that waste, and then obviously take that money and put it back to doing good work. And then now that you know about that waste, where it came from, why you had it, who it goes to, you can grow from there, right up and down your supply chain and ultimately get to that fully transparent, 100% track and trace sustainable supply chain. But you have to know where to go and what to do on day one. And just to kind of put the hammer on the nail one more time, to give you a few results of what our enterprise customers have seen. One of our Fortune 500 customers saved 15% of their bottom line in 1 year, just by finding and selling this waste. And not only that, by talking about the good actions that they were doing with their waste, they actually saw 3 times the conversion rate in their online direct-to-consumer business, just by talking about it. Wow. And so huge opportunities to continue to grow from there, and let's go change the world.
I love what you say about all the little steps matter, and that pertains to each of us as individuals and taking actions one by one and being part of a bigger movement. And I like what you said about turning waste into profit. Shivani, when you ask where do companies start? Like, where can companies start on their sustainability journey? The way that we like to think about it is that you start by looking at the impacts that the company has and looking at the assets that the company has. So in terms of impacts, you can think, what are the impacts in terms of carbon emissions, in terms of waste, in terms of water usage, in terms of impacts in nature? And you kind of start by looking at what are the biggest ones, and then you look at your assets. What are the assets that you have? The people, the intelligence of your people, the technology, the processes, the client networks, the supply chain networks, et cetera. And then you kind of look for the merger and look for the 2-for-1 specials where you can, bring together your people with suppliers to tackle one of the topics like waste if you're a retail company, for example, and that kind of helps you get a roadmap.